Are you paying tax on money you don't even use? Do you know what playbook your advisor is playing by? Do you know 3 questions that you need to answer when you're doing your income planning? Well, stay tuned because today we're going to be talking about those 3 things.
Retiring Well, brought to you by Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial advisors specializing in retirement planning and serving all of Northern Michigan. Retiring Well, helping you plan for a successful and comfortable retirement. Retiring Well, plan to retire well.
Paying tax on money you're not using. Listen, in this opening segment, Mike and I are going to discuss this. I'm going to show you how this can happen, so stay tuned.
Welcome back, folks. As you can see, I've got Larry Flynn with us. He is one of the lead advisors at Centennial Wealth Advisory, offices in Traverse City, Petoskey, Gaylord, all over the place up in Northern Michigan. And, you know, Larry, we're talking about, from our best-selling book here, we're talking about paying tax on money you don't use, money you reinvest. Right. Now, you have a long history. You've done taxes in the past. You've helped people with their financial planning. You're very familiar with this topic. So help us out here. What's happening? How is it that people pay money on tax they're not using? What's going on?
Well, Mike, think of it this way. So I've got my pension income, right? If I'm fortunate enough to have a pension, I've got my pension income. I may be drawing from Social Security, right? Mm-hmm. So I've got that income. I might be pulling income from my IRAs.
Maybe you're over 70 and a half. You got required minimum distribution.
I have to, right? So I've got all this income stacked up, all right? And then over here, I've got this non-qualified account, or what's non-retirement money.
Yeah,
right?
Non-qualified. So money that was, maybe someone sold a house and they have some extra money that they invested or they inherited or something, but it's not in an IRA.
Right.
Is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
And what is it spinning off as far as income? Interest, dividends, maybe some capital gains, right?
Okay.
That's what. So you've got this income over here coming in, but I don't need this money. I don't, because I've got sufficient income being established with my pension, Social Security, and maybe the IRA money. And now I've got this interest and dividends I'm putting and stacking on top there, right? And I'm paying tax on that money at my highest rate.
Wait, so what's happening here is a lot of times, you know, if you've got that account over there you're talking about, Larry, I know some people I've spoken to in the past, but they would say, but Larry, no, it's not spin-off. I'm not taking any income from that. So what are you talking about? You say it's spin-off income. I'm not taking any income. I'm reinvesting.
Sure.
Why should it be taxable?
Sure. Well, because Uncle Sam says that if it's spinning off income, guess what? You're going to pay tax on it today.
So the IRS doesn't care if you're spending the income or reinvesting the income. As far as they're concerned, you're paying tax on that income.
That's right.
At your highest rate?
That's right, because if I've got all that other income and then I put those interest dividends on there,
it's like on top.
It's right on top. That's right.
Oh my goodness. So you see people paying tax on money they're not spending. How often do you see that? It's pretty common?
Fairly common, yes.
So what are some options for folks? Like, what are some things they could do to help reduce some of those taxes on money that they're not using, that they're reinvesting?
Well, one thing we have to give high consideration to is if we have those kind of accounts that are spinning off income that we're paying tax on but don't need to, is what's some other financial instruments we might use that might be more tax efficient?
Yeah, and it probably depends on the purpose, right? I mean, if it's money that's truly kind of extra money, you might use one type of tool. If it's money, or if it's money they say, you know, I don't need it today, but we expect to use this for income 10 years from now. It might be a different tool. Right? So give me some examples of some different tools that are out there.
Well, one that comes right to mind is municipal bonds. Okay. All right. Some people like those because, you know, I'm getting an interest for income, but because it's municipal interest, I don't have to pay tax on that.
Okay. So that would be essentially tax-free types. Are municipal bonds typically really good investments today? Are they paying decent rates or not?
Probably were historically, because rates, yields were a little bit higher. Today they tend to be a little bit lower, so that tends to be the challenge with them. Right?
Okay. What about, I've heard you say to me, Larry, you've told me about that ETFs are or can be tax efficient. What is an ETF? What does that stand for?
Exchange Traded Fund.
And is that like a mutual fund, or what is that?
It's basically liken it to like a basket, and I can put any securities in that basket I want. But once I put them all in there, it closes. And now I'm just kind of like tracking it like an index.
Okay, so is that tax efficient generally?
Generally tax efficient because there's no buying and selling going on. You're not incurring any what you call capital gains because I'm holding all the positions in there. I'm not buying and selling.
So if someone has mutual funds that are generating these dividends and interest and capital gains, maybe ETFs might be a good solution.
Yes.
Depends on the situation, right?
That's right.
Any others come to mind?
I think of Roth IRAs. I love talking to younger taxpayers, about Roth IRAs because they tend to be in lower tax brackets. They say, listen, if you're going to build up an account, here's some tax deferred growth you can build up by putting them into Roth.
And then be tax-free later on.
Tax-free later on.
So there's a lot of different options here. Yes. It's just going to be different based on each person.
That's right.
Okay, fantastic. Larry, thank you. That was fantastic information. Folks, you don't want to miss what's coming up. We'll be right back. Hi, it's Michael Reese here. I have in my hands a copy of our #1 best-selling book on Amazon in its category, Retiring Well, How to Enjoy Retirement in Any Economy. In this book, we cover the 4 big areas of retirement planning: income planning, investment planning, tax planning, and estate planning or legacy planning. It has everything you need to know about your retirement plan, and I want to get you a free copy. So how do you get a free copy? It's really easy. Just call the number on the screen. Come visit with us. Come on in for a free, no obligation financial planning review. And when you come in to get your planning reviewed, we'll give you a copy, your very own copy of this best-selling book, absolutely for free. Again, just call the number on the screen. I want you to get your free copy. I know that you're going to love it.
If you're retiring soon, it's likely you have many decisions ahead of you. One of the larger ones is Social Security. How are you going to take it? Are you going to take it early? Are you going to take it at your full retirement age, or maybe even delay it? Social Security needs to be viewed as an asset. If you live a long life, it's likely you can collect a large sum of money over time with those payments directed to you. How, though, folks misjudge Social Security commonly is how it's taxed. How are you going to pay tax on that for the rest of your life? And it's important to factor that in when to take it. And also paired with your other assets you may have, it may make great differences as well. If you don't have a Social Security tax plan built into your retirement, it's extremely important and could cost you thousands over your lifetime if done improperly. We would love to sit down with you here at Centennial Wealth Advisory and talk through what that looks like on a larger scale and see if we can help you have a successful retirement.
Welcome back. Now, if you're just joining us, in the first segment, we were talking about when we're paying tax on money we're not using, guys. Mike and I talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that this segment come up. I just had a case the other day where some folks come in and they had this exact situation happen to them. They had been retired for about 4 or 5 years now, and their advisor had advised them to pull out of the after-tax funds. And he was very happy that he had allowed them not to pay any income tax. Meanwhile, they had a sizable IRA that was growing. The market's been good, right? We've had that good it's been growing, but what have they done? They've been creating this big tax bomb basically when required minimum distribution's been around. Now, meanwhile, happy they haven't paid taxes, but they weren't looking ahead to what potentially could have happened.
Now, you're saying they were drawing down their Roth IRA money while their IRA money was growing?
Yeah.
When they were in the lower tax bracket?
Absolutely. They had two very equal sized non-tax and taxable buckets, and they were drawing down that pre-tax, I'm sorry, not pre-tax, but non-tax one.
And guys, isn't that so true? I mean, we come across this pretty regularly, and so that's where we encourage you to give us a call. Here at Centennial Wealth Advisory, we look at not just your investment plan, but how income plays a role, and tax planning needs to be a part of that overall plan, so you have a cohesive retirement plan. So we welcome you to just give the number on the screen a call. We're at no cost, no obligation, sit down opportunity with the team here.
Yeah, John, I appreciate that, you telling the viewers that, because a lot of people, they've got their investment guy, they got their tax guy, and neither one is talking to each other. You know, at Centennial Wealth, we recognize that your income plan, your tax plan, your investment plan all have to work together.
Most definitely.
Right? That's how you can avoid that situation, Art, that person ended up in, because, you know, if somebody been doing tax planning alongside that investment management, they would not have had that issue. So.
Right.
All right. Well, guys, thanks. I appreciate that. Listen, in this next segment, I'm going to talk to you more about what playbook your advisor is playing by. Very, very important, so stay tuned. Hi, thanks for joining us in this segment of Chalk Talk. Listen, today I've been talking about, you know, how to find the right advisor, you know, what questions to ask potentially them in vetting or maybe seeing, you know, if they're maybe the right fit for you. But most importantly, paying attention to actually what questions they're asking you. It's those kind of questions that can lead you to believe if they really care about your needs, maybe your wants. You know, are they really listening to what it is they think you want and then investing you appropriately? Okay, so how you do that is going to be very, very important, because your relationship with an advisor has to be of the utmost trust. And what does that mean? That means you have to trust that they are acting in your best interest and not potentially just their own. Now, a fiduciary advisor, their focus is always going to be you, the client, what you want, what you need, and then putting the proper financial instruments in place that meet those wants and needs. Typically, those that are fiduciaries are independent, meaning they have a vast array of financial instruments or tools in their toolbox. Okay, if I'm an insurance agent, what do I think is the answer to all your problems? Probably insurance in one way, shape, form, or another, right? If I'm a wirehouse, I'm somebody selling stocks, bonds, mutual funds, what do I think is the answer to all your problems? Most likely stocks, bonds, mutual funds. When you're looking for a fiduciary, they're typically independent. They can sell a vast array of financial instruments that meet different needs accordingly. So again, pay very close attention to, you know, who you're working with, vet them out appropriately, make sure it's somebody that you can trust that's acting in your best interests. Now, having watched the market drop to half its value now twice in the last couple decades, the first time 2000 through 2002, we watched it drop to half its value in about a 2.5-year period. 2008, we watched it drop to half its value in a 15-month period. So now we've got a situation where you got the stock market has been highly volatile. We've had some very good times, but we've had some very bad times, right? And then take the other side of the equation when it comes to fixed income accounts or bonds. We've been historically for a long period of time in a declining interest rate market, which has been really good for bonds, because as interest rates go down, bond values increase. The problem is we are now entering a rising interest rate market, and as interest rates rise, bond values can go down. So historically, looking at this, looking back, having watched the market drop to half its value a couple times, watching now a rising interest rate market where we might see bond values go down, do you think advisors would maybe be doing something different? If you're watching a basketball game, you're watching a football game, what is it they do when they go to the locker room at halftime? Think about it. Most of you agree they're strategizing, right? They're strategizing. If they weren't winning in the first half, they're trying to figure out a way to keep that lead in the second half, right? But if they're losing in the first half, what are they doing? They're trying to strategize to see how can they win in the second half. All right? So again, hindsight being 2020, we've watched the markets and their volatility. We're now entering a rising interest rate market. Again, do you think advisors might be playing by a different playbook? We're finding more times than not, as we have portfolios come in, as we're analyzing those portfolios, what we're finding is that no, they have not. They are still playing by the same playbook. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. Listen, with the new market realities we find ourselves in, there is plenty of reasons to find reasons to make adjustments, to change. One, how do I handle volatile markets when it's going down? You know, if I'm trying to protect income and I'm trying to make sure that, you know, if I'm taking income, I'm not seeing my account drop to half its value while I'm trying to do so, then what kind of accounts might I use to minimize that downside? Now, sometimes that may be using insurance products or different financial instruments that give us those kind of guarantees. Now, if I'm also looking at a situation where I would traditionally maybe move into fixed income accounts or bonds, right, when they used to pay 6-7%, but now find that yield be much lower, what kind of investment instruments might I use to give me, you know, a safer income, again, without any downside? There's a vast array of financial instruments out there, all with different purposes that meet different situations in different ways. The key is, again, going back to what you want and need, and then putting the proper financial instruments in place that meet those needs. The key is going to be a whole new game plan in these new market realities we find ourselves in. So I encourage you that if you haven't, you want to find out if you're positioned right in this kind of a market, to come in and see us so we can maybe talk to you about how maybe we're handling that situation.
Hi, I'm sitting here with Larry Flynn. Thanks for being here, Larry.
Thank you, Mike.
He's one of the advisors at Centennial Wealth Advisory. And folks, as you may know by now, we certainly invite you to come visit with us. It's absolutely free to get a second opinion on your retirement planning. And I think it's important to get a second opinion from someone who's a specialist when it comes to retirement planning. And Larry, I'm sure they're wondering, you know, if they pick up the phone and they call and come visit with you, what can they expect? What's that experience like?
Well, Mike, they can expect not to get hard sold, okay? We're going to greet them warmly. We're going to sit down and talk to them a little bit about maybe their story, you know, where they're from, where they grew up, how they met their spouse, you know, what they're dreaming of doing once they get soon to be retired or retired.
Kind of what are their goals, right?
Yeah, what are your goals? We're going to talk to them a little bit about who we are, what we do, show them how we do things, especially dealing in the market realities we find ourselves in today.
Got it. So essentially, they're coming in, you're learning a little bit about what's important to them, what their goals are, what they're trying to accomplish. I'm sure you're taking a look at what they're doing so far. You maybe share a little bit about you, and it's just in a very relaxed atmosphere.
That's right.
And there's no cost to do this. Is that correct?
No cost. No cost.
All right. So, folks, there you go. I mean, it sounds very simple, very easy, very laid back. There's no reason for you not to just pick up the phone, call the number on the screen, come visit us, get that second opinion. You'd be glad that you did.
Are you an employee who's participating in a 401k plan? Are you aware that in some cases you might be able to roll out of the plan even though you are still working? Are you tired of the choices you have and possibly the lack of professional help in getting you to your retirement goals? If you're looking for an alternative approach to help you protect your hard-earned retirement savings, then we might be able to help. You may be entitled to an in-service rollover of your 401k plan. A rollover to a self-directed IRA may be an appropriate solution for you. Contact us at Centennial Wealth Advisory today. Take control of your retirement. Centennial Wealth Advisory can help. Please call the number on your screen.
Welcome back. Now, in that last segment, I was talking about what playbook advisors are playing by. And John, you coach basketball.
Yeah, I love the chalk talk because now I'm coaching my boys who are in 2nd and 3rd grade. So the strategy that I'm using at halftime is mainly just making sure they're going the right direction on the court. So it's not quite as intense, but I liken it, guys, to when you think of folks as they're approaching retirement. They've maybe been in that growth and accumulation phase of their life where they're just trying to build that portfolio. But then, okay, halftime, now you're transitioning to retirement and saying, okay, now it's more of maybe a preservation of wealth and income phase. And so it's a completely different mindset between those two times.
Yeah, and it's interesting, John, as much as you talk about coaching and strategizing, folks building that wealth, it seems like oftentimes through the course of your growth and accumulation phases, you tend to accumulate these different tools, these different accounts over the times. And oftentimes folks come into our office and they'll slide across a statement with these tools they've accumulated in their toolbox and say, is this good? Do I have a good investment here, no matter what it is? And we have to kind of take a step back and say, well, depends. Depends. What are we trying to accomplish? Going back to the coaching and strategizing, really getting back into that retirement planning, income planning, tax planning, and walking through all those. We have the tools available to us to get behind the scenes of all these different investments and learn the ins and the outs, the costs, the downsides, and all this of these different investments that can be really helpful for your retirement planning.
Yeah, Art, isn't it funny? I can't tell you how many times, I've done that with somebody and I've said, okay, what do you want this to do? And then, and then we review it and we look at it, and what they thought that was doing isn't what they said they thought it was doing,
Right.
Isn't that funny?
Yep, most definitely. And guys, I think of too, just as again, people are approaching retirement, how different that is. And just the tools, like you said, one of the advantages we've found is being independent. Since 2006, we're able to sit down and look at, okay, what are all the different tools available versus maybe some of the firms that are limited on what they can offer.
Yeah. The other thing, and I want our viewers to understand that we can do this, is that we can get behind any portfolio and tell them how that portfolio operated in 2008. What did it do in 2000 through 2002? I mean, very important. So many people think that they've got a portfolio that's ready and positioned to take care of the next bear market. But when we get behind a lot of these, we find they don't look much different than they did 2007 before the 2008 crash. Right. They think they're maybe conservative or balanced or whatever, and we can look back and say, no, this portfolio as it stands today lost 30-40% in 2008. Do you want to make some adjustments, right?
Right. There's really no better time than right now to get that second opinion, and give us a call at the number on the screen. We'd be happy to sit down and use these tools to your advantage and help you better understand what you have in your retirement portfolio.
Now I want you to stay tuned, because in the next segment, guys, we're going to talk about income planning, answering those important questions that people need to answer when it comes to their income planning. So stay tuned.
What can Retirement Analyzer do for you? Retirement Analyzer is a software tool that can help you prepare today for your financial future. You've worked hard to save for your retirement, but as you near your retirement, you may have concerns. Have I positioned my retirement savings wisely? Have I saved enough for retirement, and will my savings last throughout my lifetime? What impact could inflation have on my future expenses? What if I suffer a long-term illness? Will I have enough money to cover my medical care expenses and still be able to meet my other financial obligations? Could changes in the income tax rates disrupt my retirement strategy? There's no need to be in the dark as you prepare for your retirement. Retirement Analyzer can help you find answers to all these questions and more. The first step is providing us with information on your financial assets, the type and current value of those assets, as well as your sources of income. Then, we work with you to identify your expected expenses in retirement. This will include a discussion of the lifestyle you envision in retirement, travel, a summer residence, whatever you dream your retirement will be. We'll input the information you provide us into the Retirement Analyzer, and in a very short time, we'll have reports that show us the percentage of assets currently in high-risk vehicles, as well as the percent in lower-risk products. Retirement Analyzer enables us to project your income from year to year in your retirement and see how long your retirement savings may last. As we change the conditions of the report, delaying your retirement date, including costs for long-term care, adjusting the expected tax rate, or adjusting your retirement strategies, we can see how changes in these variables may impact your income in retirement and the longevity of your retirement savings. Let the Retirement Analyzer help you test drive your retirement strategy today, because the time to discover the bumps in the road is not once your trip through retirement has begun. Contact our office today to schedule an appointment for your Retirement Analyzer review.
Now, in this segment, what we want to talk about, guys, is income planning. You know, these important questions that basically got to get answered. Art, what's the first thing that people need to recognize in the income plan?
Oh boy, I think it's probably the most simple, but it always seems like we're pulling teeth to get this number, guys. You know, what is the income you want or need? What do you need to live on in retirement or want to do the things you want to do? Occasionally we have to bust out the old budget worksheet, and it tends people kind of step back, but a lot of times that's what it is. You know, some folks like to go back to what am I living on today? You know, maybe there's some places we can cut, or well, maybe I want to continue to live on that. But a lot of it is, that's really where we have to start with income planning. If we don't know the number we're planning for, it makes our job a lot harder. Right?
Right, most definitely. And I think of, guys, then, what are those different income sources that you have? When I started here over 14 years ago, I remember everybody sort of had their pension, then they had Social Security, and then, oh yeah, there's some retirement savings there to help out, right?
Well, John, now, yeah, you're basically leading to the second question
Sure.
they need to answer, right? I mean, the first one is, what do they want or need, right? We start with that. But now, what can they count on, right? What's guaranteed sources of income?
And that's, I mean, basically you're looking at, okay, what's pension, if you have one, Social Security, and that's where it's really important, Larry, when you're looking at Social Security, to find out, don't just say, oh, I'm just going to start it now. What is the plan for that, as far as should you maximize that Social Security income? And especially if you're a married couple, then what does that look like together? So understanding that Social Security piece, and then ultimately, okay, what do you have? Any other income sources? Are there any rental properties? What does that look like? And so just understanding that, and then ultimately with that retirement savings piece, which is becoming more and more important today, to understand how to structure that as an income source.
Yeah, John, I don't think that can be stressed more. If somebody's coming in and they got very little or no pension, which we're seeing a lot of people coming in today with, Social Security is the only guaranteed source they have. So maximizing that the best we can becomes a top job.
And isn't a key word in Social Security supplemental income? It's supposed to just be there to sort of help out a little bit, right?
It wasn't supposed to be the retirement plan.
Exactly.
That's right. It really was supposed to come along something else you had. So, all right, so if we know what they want or need, we know what they can count on, now we might have a difference, right? Where's that going to come from, guys? Well, this is where the third question comes from. It's going to have to come from our retirement savings, right? And is that going to be enough, right? As a general rule, we've always used what we call the 4 or 5% rule, right? That's the number by which somebody should be able to take from their portfolio and maintain their principal, maybe even grow it a little bit over time, right? It wasn't brain surgery. The idea is that if I can make 5, 6, 7% every year while I'm pulling out 4 or 5%, that should work all day long, right? Well, as we know, with markets being as volatile as they are now, that's starting to be quite a challenge, because if the market drops like it did in 08 to half its value, and I'm pulling out 5%, well, now it's 10%. If the account goes down to half its value. So that becomes the challenge. So in income planning, we like to answer that question for people, right? I mean, we like to, for you viewers, let you know that that's something that we do. We find out what you need or want. We look at those guaranteed sources. We look to see if you have sufficient savings. If you're soon to be retired, what does that number need to be for you to comfortably retire and outlive those assets? So thank you for joining us today. We're so glad that you participated in this. Stay tuned for next week. We'll see you then.